operating system of our humanity, then my guest here is not merely a spectator. He's actually helping fund those creators who are writing our future. Mr. Anandan has been at the cross-section of technology, AI, entrepreneurship, and innovation for a very, very long time. So I'm very glad, Mr. Anandan, I have this opportunity to sit across and have a chat with you today. And, I would like to begin by asking, sir, your father, I was researching a little on you, and your father was an attorney, but your father held a Guinness Book of World Record. He swam the Park Strait between Sri Lanka and India and swam back in just about 51 hours. His life is an inspiring journey. So has yours been. And so I want to understand, how much do you take from your father's achievements? How much has that shaped your journey?
Yeah, firstly, thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. So my dad was an attorney, was an entrepreneur, but his real passion was endurance sports. So actually, before he died, he had 9 Guinness Book of World Records. Swimming the Park Strait up and down was one of them. By the way, he also died swimming the English Channel. That's how he died. He was swimming the English Channel and he got hypothermia, which is where your brain freezes and you can't. And he pretty much died on arrival at Dover. So I think, the big learning for me is, if you set your mind to it, you can pretty much get anything done. But the other big learning is, know what your limits are. Swimming the English Channel in August is probably not the best thing if you're not a swimmer from the UK. So no, it was absolutely fun growing up. He would try to break a world record every New Year's Eve. So every New Year's Eve I was doing something different. Either, on a boat crossing the Indian Ocean, or at a swimming pool where he would be treading water for 124 hours, or standing on one leg for days on end. So it was quite an interesting childhood. By the way, I'll end with this, because I grew up in a family of sports, endurance sports. So when I was 7, I wanted a bicycle, and I had to do 100 push-ups to get a bike. So, it was just absolutely nuts. And the irony of it all is, I'm an absolutely terrible. No, I couldn't. I'm an absolutely terrible sports person. That's why I do what I do now, which is, be in technology.
Okay, Mr. Anandan, there's a beautiful word in Indian mythology. It's called Maya. I'm pretty sure it's one of your favorite words because your daughter is also named Maya. But here I talk about Maya in the context of AI. It actually means illusion. And for a lot of us, AI is something that engages you, that creates for you, that writes for you, that talks to you. And yet, a lot of us are unable to understand what actually AI is. Maybe not illusionary, a lot more magical. What does AI mean to Mr. Rajan Anandan?
Yeah, I think, the simplest way to think about it is machines that have intelligence, that are fast approaching human-level intelligence. Today, on a scale of 1:10, you could say maybe we're at a 6 or a 7. Intelligence, think of it as sort of knowledge work intelligence, right? I think when it comes to physical AI or physical intelligence, we're probably 10 to 15 years away. But it's pretty much everything that you can do today. Let's just take an interesting example. You take a radiologist. Radiologist takes a look at takes a look at something and is able to sort of interpret what that is. Today, machines can do that better than humans. So you can think about let's call it 1 million things that a human does, and a machine will be able to do almost all of that. As well, if not better than a human, right? So it's essentially human intelligence that machines will have, and I think that's really what's going on. If you look at when ChatGPT was launched 3 years ago, it was a very magical experience, right? Because you could ask it a question, and it would give you the answer, and it would give you a pretty well thought out answer. And today, with deep research, what would take me personally, I use it a lot for research. What would take me or one of our team members days is now done in minutes. And what is the machine really doing? It's pretty much using reasoning to go out and, kind of do all this research. So that's sort of how I think about it. You can think about what you do during your day, and every year that goes by, you know, a lot of those things will be able to be done by machines. And what that means really is then humans sort of move on to do other things, right?
Other
like
things,
coding
actually,
is probably
a
an
great
example
tool
of
in our
that.
hand.
Coding is an example of that.
Coding, yes, I want to come to that. But you know, you refer to ChatGPT, I would say Gemini, Cloud, Grok. Let's talk about all of them. And since you are somebody who's so optimistic on India's story at this moment, Mr. Anandan, all of these names that I took, whether it's Gemini, whether it's Grok, whether it's Cloud, whether it's ChatGPT, none belong to India, none of them. And hence the question that have we missed the AI bus? Where are we in the entire bigger picture? It looks like we are nowhere.
Yeah, I think that's probably the popular narrative.
Okay, what's your understanding then?
Yeah, look, so firstly, I think we should keep in mind that AI, although we are 40 years into AI, this current version of generative AI, we're about 3 years into this, right? Like ChatGPT was launched 3 years ago. So number one, it's very, very early. And India, you're absolutely right. When it comes to domestic innovation, either at the application layer, at the tooling layer, at the model layer, India is very, very early. But you know, we are extremely optimistic. We're very bullish on what India is going to be able to do over the next decade in AI. And I'll talk about that. But before I do that, I want to use two examples. In 2015, India was not in the top 100 countries on digital payments. Today, we are number one by far. I think there's nobody in the world that would
I agree.
Say whether India is now. And by the way, we didn't do it the way the rest of the world did it. We did it with UPI, we did it with making MDR go to zero, and so on and so forth, right? Take another industry, which is space tech. Very few people know this. 2015, India had 2 space tech startups. Today, we have over 300. 300 space tech startups, right? And I can give you a lot of examples, but I think we should keep in mind that India, because of our current GDP per capita, our very large population, and also our affordability on how much we can invest, we will not be able to compete head-on against the current model of spending hundreds of billions. This year, $800 billion will be spent on AI capex. We're not going to be able to do that, right? And our view is that that is actually not the path that India should take. So let me share a few interesting examples. So firstly, as a consumption nation, we are already well on our way, right? The names that you mentioned, for both ChatGPT and Gemini, India is either number 1 or number 2 market in the world. But what's actually a lot more interesting about consumer AI in India is India has more consumer AI startups than the US today, right? I mean, think about that. So when people tell me India is behind on AI, actually that's a very important statistic. There are more consumer AI startups in India than the US, which means that the consumer innovation ecosystem, when it comes to AI, is actually very vibrant. It's very nascent, but you know, the fastest growing AI education company on planet Earth is an Indian company. In fact, you should have him next time you have your conference. You should get some of these companies. So that at the application layer, we are well on our way, right? And we've been a large consumer, and you can think about whether when it came to the internet. Google has 7 products, over 1 billion users for every single one of these products. India is the largest market in the world, right? So, and there are several reasons why at the application layer, Indian companies are going to build very large businesses, both in consumer and in enterprise. In consumer, it has to do with languages, right? You have to win in local languages. ABP is a great example of that. We are a voice-first nation. We tend to have consumer behavior that's quite different. Like, for instance, we like video more than we like text. We don't like long answers, and so on and so forth. So as a result, you'll see a lot of innovation that will happen at the application layer, both on the consumer side as well as on the enterprise side. That is very India-specific. And for instance, like let's take voice AI as an example, okay, at the application layer. I don't know how many of you know this, but the human cost, like human BPOs, right? Business process offshoring. If you look at India today, the price that an enterprise pays is between 5 rupees and 20 rupees a minute. Okay, that's the voice call. 5 rupees a minute, 20 rupees a minute. Already, voice AI is at 3 rupees a minute. But Indian companies today are able to deliver at 1.5 rupees a minute with very strong gross margins because they built the entire stack, right? The voice stack, speech to text, text to speech, the underlying LLMs, and we'll talk about that. And so, in fact, people ask this question, what is the geo moment for AI? Actually, the geo moment for AI is happening as we speak, and it's driven by voice AI.
Okay,
right?
when you say that, Mr. Anandan, I totally agree.
And by the way, it's being won by Indian companies. Okay? Currently, the largest voice AI company is 11 Labs, but 24 months from now, the top 5 companies will be Indian companies because the cost structure that they have is dramatically lower. The models that are being trained in Indian languages are just better.
And
right?
that's our advantage.
It's a huge advantage, right? Because in India, you can't win in India with very high prices. We know that, right? You have to have extremely... So that's at the application layer. Then there's a tooling layer, which we can talk about. Let's talk about the model layer, because, all this capital that is being spent, a lot of it is going into these foundation models, right? Whether it's OpenAI, whether it's Anthropic, whether it's Google Gemini, whether it's the meta models. India's approach is not going to be to build trillion parameter models, okay? We just can't do that because we can't invest. Google this year will spend $80 billion on AI capex. $80 billion is slightly below India's defense budget, right? So we're not going to be able to spend $80 billion on AI capex and training models. However, our view is that India doesn't need trillion parameter models, right? For us to have 1.4 billion Indians benefit from AI, what we actually need is models that can deliver the functionality that is required at an extremely affordable cost point. So Sarvam, which is a company that we are very fortunate to invest in, been investors in, was the first company to launch sovereign models, right? So they've launched a 30 billion parameter model, 105 billion parameter model. And they also have voice models that are, call it 10 to 20 billion parameters. They have OCR models. If you take voice as an example, voice AI, which we just talked about, Sarvam today is state-of-the-art in Indic languages, and it is by far the lowest cost model. Okay, so as a result, the fastest growing voice AI company in India today is Sarvam.
Okay.
It's not any of the names that you mentioned. Similarly, if you look at, let's take enterprise automation. I don't know how many of you are running large businesses. If you look at enterprise automation and you want to, let's say, build a co-pilot for every single one of your employees, right? Whether you have 1,000 employees, 100,000 employees, or 10,000 employees. You can either go to a global platform where they're going to charge between $20 to $30 per user, and as you know, right, per month, and that is just not affordable for most enterprises. Or you can go to a company like a Sarvam or several others in India, and you get it for $2 a user per month. That is what Indian AI companies are going to do, right? So whether it's at the model level, whether it's at the application level, these Indian companies, by the way, the Indian government has funded 12 foundation model companies like Sarvam, like Gani, like GAN, as well as Bharat. 11 are actually companies, and then one is Bharat, which is from IIT Bombay. So we have started this journey, and I think, again, right, like it basically takes a decade before we start like zoning in to say, did we win or lose? So in many ways, everybody who's saying India doesn't have AI, we are behind, etc., is currently taking a view. It's almost like, if you have a 5-day test match and you're trying to call the match
on the first day.
At the first day, you're probably going to get it wrong, especially if you're playing against a team that always gets its game in day 4 and day 5.
Okay.
India gets its game day 4 and day 5.
So I'm asking this question a little too soon, is it?
No, I know. It's a very legitimate question, right? You can look at it.
Because you say, Mr. Anandan, what you say is that you are looking ahead at a time when India might have 50 unicorns, AI unicorns. And right now, we are looking at just one, Ola's Kruthrim. There's no other unicorn. Maybe Sarvam's coming anyway closer.
Agreed. But you have to also keep in mind that 15 years ago, India had no unicorns. Zero.
And we are still
zero. No. I'm talking about whole country, all sectors, fintech, consumer commerce, consumer brands, you name it. We had no unicorns 15 years ago, right? So 15 years ago, India did not have a single unicorn. The first unicorn was in Mobi end of 2011. Okay, we are now in 2026. So in 4 or 5 years, can we have 50? You bet we will. And and the reason is because of what I was saying, right? to win in India, you need to have highly localized products. That's the, I guess, the title of the panel. Highly localized products that can be offered at extremely affordable prices, okay? The magic price point in India is called free. If you have free, 100 million Indians, maybe a billion Indians will use it. Now, you can't really build a business on free, although in payments we did, by the way. We have 25 fintech unicorns, 10 of them are payments companies. By the way, they have built unicorn businesses with thousands of crores of revenue on payments, which is free, which means they found other ways to monetize, right? Now with AI, because of inference and training costs, you can't make it free. But it'll be extremely affordable. And the reason it's going to be extremely affordable is because we have architected these models and these applications so that we can serve them in very affordable ways. And we're not going to train, 5 trillion parameter models. We will train 30 billion, 100 billion parameter models. And we are beginning to see that it's still very early. I think by the end of this year, you'll start hearing a lot more about this. And I'd say in 2 or 3 years, I think you'll start seeing the game getting played out.
Okay, so let me ask you this, Mr. Anandan. See, we did refer to these tools, ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever. See what's happening in Hormuz today. One country decides to come and block it off. The entire world is suffering. Isn't there a danger, and with the kind of administration we have in US at this moment, isn't there a danger of, say, tomorrow US wakes up, decides on, turning off the tap on these AI tools? I mean, tomorrow if I can't access cloud on my iPhone, if I can't use ChatGPT, if Grok is off, whatever be the reason back there, I mean, will that not lead to collapse in so many different spheres of our lives? Do you think that the Indian government now needs to wake up and make this a priority, that we have our own indigenous tools? Which
By the way, this is what sovereign AI is, right? So, I don't know how many of you know this, but the India AI mission committed 10,000 crores to start. That number is going to be much, much larger. Actually, we have 12 foundation model efforts. By the way, China has 10 world-class in production foundation model companies, right? DeepSeek, some of them owned by Alibaba, ByteDance, etc. We have 12 efforts. It's just that it's very early. So the Indian government is absolutely on it. We have to have our own models. There is no question about it. But what I can tell you is it's not just we have to have. Several have been launched already. I think in the next 4 weeks, I can't tell you the name of the company, next 4 weeks, an Indian company will launch a video model that is the lowest cost by a long margin.
Please
against
explain.
Any model in the world. A video model, right? Like you put text and you want to create a video. Right?
Okay.
Like,
Which company is that?
No, I can't tell you because they'll announce their own
Have
own
you
launch,
invested
right?
in that?
No, so basic, that's what I'm telling you. What are we really good at as an engineering nation? We are good at building products that 1 billion Indians can use at a fraction of the cost the world has ever seen. That is what we did in payments. Right? You'll see this in rocket launches, right? So for instance, today, obviously SpaceX dominates the rocket launch business globally, okay? I can tell you 5 years from now, the lowest cost rocket launches in the world will happen right here in India. And they'll be driven by startups. Look, this is
That's the confidence you exude, Mr.
This is what we're really, really good at. You look at healthcare. You look at, Narayana Health, the lowest cost heart surgeries in the world. Narayana Health, one hospital, does more heart surgeries than all of the eastern border of the US at a fraction of the cost. So I think this is really, really important, right? And in fact, goes back to Viksit Bharat. See, today, if you look at Viksit Bharat, the entire discussion around what is the GDP per capita and what is the effective GDP you have to get to, right? Let's call it 20, 25 trillion, something like that. But that assumes that the cost of each of the, let's call them services, right? Whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, is delivered at that cost. What we have shown as a nation over the last, I'd say 10 to 20 years, is that we are good. We can innovate or reimagine everything at a fraction of the cost. And that is exactly what you will see in AI as well, where we will build products that are going to be used by Indian consumers, by Indian businesses, by Indian governments, but it's going to be a fraction of the cost.
The scale and the cost.
And it's voice AI. Like voice AI is the example. Human is 5 to 20 rupees. Voice AI, today average price is 3 rupees. Indian companies are winning very large enterprise deals in India at, call it ₹50, and that number will go down to ₹1, maybe it will go down to 50 paisa per minute.
Okay, but let me, when you talk about so many positive things, but, we as journalists, it's our job to ask you critical questions as
Absolutely.
well, Mr. Anandan. So here is a generation of Indians who went all the way to the Silicon Valley. And this was at the time when coding was picking up. They all were engineers who were into coding, and now AI has come. What they were doing in perhaps a really long time, AI does in exactly 2 minutes. Do you think that that, in a way, is putting an end to all that was happening in terms of the Indian dream in Silicon Valley? That entire generation will be rendered jobless.
Interesting data point for you. India has 140 unicorns. Do you know how many of those unicorn companies were created by Indians who went outside, studied, worked, and came back?
No.
How many of the 140? I'll take a guess. Less than 5. Less than 5. These are Indians who grew up in India, they went to school in India, they worked in India, and they started companies in India, and many of them are now billionaires, okay? So I think what is changing is the India opportunity, right? Like, think about it. 15 years ago, we didn't have a single unicorn. We didn't have a single unicorn. Today, we have Indian companies that go from founding to be worth billions of dollars in a handful of years, right? I do think, look, the software services industry, where we have millions of Indians currently, employed here, or some of them actually end up moving there, that industry will go through a transformation. But I'm actually optimistic that they will morph into AI transformation companies, right? I was in the US last week. I'm in the US every 2 months, right? The reality is, if you look at the Fortune 500 companies in the US, less than 10% have implemented more than one Gen AI use case across the enterprise. Less than 10%. Because it's actually not easy to do. And they need help, right? So much like Indian companies which powered the Y2K revolution, the cloud transformation, the internet transformation for large enterprises, I think the companies that are successful from India, like be it the big IT services companies, right? I think they will pivot. Now, in terms of, as an Indian, should you focus on computer science or not? I think you should, but you have to basically be very, very savvy at using these AI tools.
Mr. Anandan, we talk so much about AI, but there are people who are already looking at the downside of AI. For example, this Israeli author who wrote the book Sapiens, very famous, he says that AI could create a class of people who will just not be employable after a point in time. Elon Musk goes on record to say that, you might not even have to work. There'll be no need for you to work. AI will take over everything. Now, I don't know how he expects people to sustain themselves, but whatever. These are thinkers, visionaries who say that AI is not, everything's not rosy about AI. What's your take?
Look, I mean, absolutely. AI will impact a large number of jobs in every country around the world, right? But it's much like, look, let's go back to the Industrial Revolution, okay? Most of the world was farming. Industrial Revolution happened. How many of those people who were in farming? They ended up doing something else. When the Industrial Revolution started, for that matter, take the printing press, did we know all the jobs that got created because of the Industrial Revolution? The answer is absolutely not. What we are seeing today with AI is a transformation that is going to be much, much more profound than the Industrial Revolution, right? Which means that a lot of jobs today will not exist, much like the farming jobs. Many of those jobs went away. Mm-hmm. But also there'll be new jobs that will be created. But then the question becomes, okay, what are those jobs going to look like? It's sort of like at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. I don't know, right? So we will have to reskill a large number of people. We'll have to find new roles for them. But right, I'm actually quite optimistic because at the end of the day, let's just take coding, okay? Today, if you're a top coder who's proficient in AI, you're going to make more money than you've ever made. Okay. Despite the fact that you have Claude, you have Codex from OpenAI, you have Gravity from Google. Because at the end of the day, the people who are very, very savvy at using these tools are 10x more productive. So I think what we have to do as a nation, look, we have 1 million Indians who enter the workforce every single month, right? We just have to make sure that they're tooled up to win in this era.
Okay, the time's up, but then I will take a few quick questions with you, Mr. Anandan. You know, quickly, actually, before I get to the rapid fire, there was a multilateral that happened last year in September, where you had President Putin and Xi Jinping, and they were caught talking. The mic was hot; they didn't realize it, but they were talking about putting systems in place, and perhaps they're already working at it. That increases the human age to at least 150. I mean, that sounds crazy at this moment, but clearly there was AI at play, and you guys are in it at this moment. Are we looking at a future where people can live up to 150
Yeah, I think,
years?
look, if you can live the next, if you can survive the next, be around in 15, 20 years and be healthy, you'll make it to 150.
Okay,
I think, yeah, I mean, like, you know, so all of you, looking around the room, there's probably like 50% of this room that's got
dead.
a very high shot. You know, very, very strong shot at 150. Maybe the other 50% kind of depends on what you do for the next 10, 15 years.
Yeah, but the caveats are eat well,
look,
exercise well, sleep
what we
well,
all
etc.
forget is that the average lifespan in India 100 years ago, right, in 1926 was 26. 100 years later, our average lifespan is 72. And that's basically thanks to medicine, nutrition, you know, et cetera, right? And now, like every disease that we know of today will be cured. We'll have a cure 15 years from now. That's what I mean, right? Now, of course, there'll be new diseases that we haven't seen. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very possible.
But you do expect cure for something like cancer, which we haven't found till now.
I mean, yeah, I mean, absolutely, right? Because as cell therapy and all of this stuff gets much more advanced.
Now, the quick questions, Mr. Anandan. You know, you have reviewed, of course, at Peak 15, you must have reviewed thousands of startup pitches. What is the biggest mistake AI founders in India are making right now?
Look, I think firstly, we should have many more founders starting up in AI because it's a generational opportunity to build very, very large companies. We've just never seen the kind of opportunities that we have. So, and the ones that are starting up, just think very big. You know, like I think this whole notion of Indian founders can't build companies that are going to be as big, as global. I mean, that's just an old idea.
Okay.
The new idea is we build to win. We build to be number one.
Wow.
So I'd say just think big.
If a 22-year-old founder walked into your office tomorrow with an AI startup idea, Mr. Anandan, what would convince you to write the first check for him or her?
Look, I think we look for founders who have deep insights into the problem that they're solving. And today with where AI coding tools are, you can actually build stuff and launch it very, very quickly. So we're looking for great founders, big ideas. So I'd say just make sure that you have lots of deep insights, you build something, unless you're doing like a very deeply technical R&D driven thing, you know, you can get something out very quickly and show us that you can build fast and ship fast.
Okay, which AI sectors or opportunities excite you the most over the next 5 years?
Look, basically every industry is going to be transformed from AI, from healthcare, education, semiconductors, manufacturing, energy. So I would say like this is the beginning of the industrial revolution. You know, there were literally 1 trillion opportunities that showed up. And that's where we are today with AI. So it's everywhere, right? You can pretty much reimagine every industry. Like your industry, the media business, it's going to be completely reimagined.
And we'll be out of jobs.
No, you won't be. It depends on whether you reskill yourself or not, you know.
So in the simplest possible terms, what is the single biggest problem AI can solve for India? That's India specific over the next decade. And what should ordinary Indians be most excited about when we talk about AI?
Look, I would say there's no single biggest problem, but I would say, you know, healthcare, we should have doctors that are world-class for every single Indian. We have diagnostics that are world-class for every single Indian, regardless of which zip code you're in, regardless of which small town you're in, you know, district, etc. Education, world-class teachers. Agriculture, right? We have 100 million Indians in farming. They currently don't have yields that are anywhere close to world-class. We should be able to equip with them. So I would say, look, in every single industry, the great thing about, you know, I was in the US last week. I don't know whether you all know this, but the public sentiment on AI in the US is actually not great. Lisa Su, who's the AMD CEO, was the commencement speaker at MIT last week. When she mentioned AI, there was a negative reaction from the most elite engineering college on planet Earth.
Wow. This
Right?
happened in MIT.
Yeah, so, India is at a very different place. We have 1.4 billion Indians that are fundamentally optimistic, right? And we have, over the last 20, 30 years, shown that we embrace technology and we embrace it to make our lives better.
Of course.
Right? And I think that in every facet of our lives, is just going to be on steroids with AI.
Well, you are feeding into that optimism with your funds, sir, and you're doing good for India. But one word answers, and I'm finishing it off. I should not be asking you this, but between Sarvam and OpenAI.
Sarvam wins India.
Right. Satya Nadella, this is going to be difficult for him. Satya Nadella or Sundar Pichai, a better boss. You've worked with both.
S and S.
What do you mean SNS?
Satya and Sundar.
You got to pick one.
Sundar and Satya.
Okay, one AI company you admire globally.
Look, I admire lots of companies globally.
One.
I would say Google. Because, Google actually has the best full stack from chips, from cloud, to models, to applications.
Yeah.
And I think if you especially want to win at giant scale globally, okay, it's very, very important to have sort of that integrated stack. And it's the only company in the world that actually has every layer of that stack.
So Google.
At that scale. Yeah,
Okay.
we don't think of Google as sort of an AI company, but that's what it is today, right?
Correct. One Indian founder everyone should be watching.
I would say Vivek and Pratyush at Sarvam when it comes to AI. I think this, I think Indian AI companies will win India. I think that is over the next 5 to 10 years. I know it's really hard to imagine here, sitting here.
Yes,
you're
it
like,
is.
what are you talking about? But I can tell you, we're on the ground floor. We invested in many of these companies. For the reasons that we talked about, 20 minutes ago, I think that is going to happen, right? And I do think companies like Sarvam could end up in the top 5 globally. I know that's really hard to imagine, but that could really happen because of the scale that India has.
Okay. The biggest AI myth that you're dealing with?
No, I think, it's what you started with, right? Like everybody is like, there's no AI in India. It's like, please come to Bangalore, spend a day with us. We will blow your minds.
You will.
Absolutely.
How do you get that confidence, Mr. Anandan? From where do you get that confidence?
No, because we see this every day.
It's not visible on the horizon.
No, but the thing is,
such critical
but like next, you know what? You should do an AI conference and just get Indian AI innovators to come and speak, because actually, I don't think most of India knows what's really happening with AI in India.
Okay. One book every AI founder should be reading, everybody should be reading, from your perspective.
Yeah, I think, I really like William Dalrymple's book, The Golden Road. Look, basically, and maybe we'll end with this. I know you're way over time. I know you have more questions, but let's end with this. See, 300 years ago, India had 25% of GDP. By independence, I think we had 2% of GDP. By 1991, we had 1% of GDP. We are now back to about 3-4% of GDP. Let's say global GDP, 110 trillion, we're at about 4 trillion, so call it 3.5%. I think we're here to talk about 2047. We are well on our way. Right? Whether it's AI, whether it's space tech, whether it's advanced manufacturing, whether it's semiconductors, whether it's quantum computing, we missed the Industrial Revolution. We are not going to miss anything anymore.
On that note, Mr. Anandan, before I let you go, tell me, you think we are there? You think we are arriving?
No, I didn't say we are there. I said we are well on our way.
Okay, we are arriving.
It's like the first day of the 5-day match. We should not call the match.
According to you, which day are we on right now?
We're in the third ball.
Oh, God.
We're in the third ball on the first day. I'm telling you, it's that early. It's that early in AI.
When do we get to the 5th day, sir?
It's going to be a decade.
A decade from now.
Yeah, remember? Payments, 2015 to 2025. Space tech, 2015 to 2026. So, by the way, semiconductors, 3 years ago, I don't know how many of you know this, India had no semiconductor fabless startups. Today, we have 50. In fact, we have a company in our portfolio called Agrani that is going to build GPUs.
Yeah, and we are lacking that right now.
GPUs right here from India.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to build GPUs. These are basically the most advanced semiconductor chips on the planet.
Okay, before I let you go, as briefly as you can answer this, 3 immediate steps that India should take to elevate itself as far as the AI ecosystem is concerned, vis-a-vis the whole world?
Yeah, so I think, look, firstly, the India AI mission has been absolutely fantastic, okay? There's 10,000 crores. I would urge the government, it's easy for us to say, it's hard for the government to do. It'll be great to see the India AI mission 10x, go from 10,000 crores to 1 lakh crore, and try to make sure that we dramatically upscale the investments in compute infrastructure. That's number one. Number two, look, we don't have as many AI researchers. Just to give you a sense, both the US and the UK have about 3,000 top-tier AI researchers each. China and the US have about 3,000 each. UK has about 2,000. We have a few hundred. We should, I think, as a nation. By the way, there are a lot of Indians in the US and other places, UK, for instance. We should bring back a few hundred of them. Do whatever it takes. Mission bring back. Okay, so if we can bring a few, I'd say that's probably number two. I think the third thing is just as a nation, we have to just have confidence in our technologists. Like this whole thing about we're no AI game. We don't, like, let's keep in mind what our technologists have done. We've kind of done a lot in the last 20 years. So I'd say just chutzpah, confidence. Let's go for it.
Keep the spirits high on that very note. Mr. Anandan, thank you so much. So glad for your time. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, what a delightful conversation this has been. And Mr. Anandan, your optimism about India and AI, I think it's quite contagious, and you have converted. I just request you to stay on stage, sir. Can I just request you to stay on stage? I'm going to request Mr. Sumanta Datta, CEO, ABP Network, and Tushar Banerjee, Vice President, Digital ABP Network, to please join us on stage and felicitate Mr. Anandan. He has managed to convert quite a few pessimists, I'm sure, today with all his optimism and positive outlook on what AI can do for India and what Indian founders can do for AI. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause, please, for Mr. Rajan Anandan. What a brilliant conversation, and thank you, Megha, for chairing it so efficiently. Thank you indeed. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know, India is big on the AI promise, and there are 2 other promises that India has made to the world. By 2047, a $30 trillion developed economy, and by 2070, net zero emissions. Now, here is the uncomfortable truth that kind of sits between those 2 promises. Right now, about 87% of India's primary energy comes from fossil fuels. And Niti Aayog's own projections say that India's coal consumption is actually going to keep increasing until 2047. So the question really becomes, is the most consequential one right now, which is that if India can grow and go green at the same time, and we are asking the planet to really pay the price for our ambition. That is the big question. Our next guest has spent over 2 decades navigating exactly these tensions at the World Trade Organization in Geneva, and now as president of the Chintan Research Foundation, one of India's most active new voices on climate and energy policy. So kindly put your hands together and please welcome onto this stage Shishir Priyadarshi. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Priyadarshi. And I request Rumana Isar Khan to please join us back on stage to lead this conversation. Can we please have a round of applause and build the energy for another interesting chat.
नमस्कार। एबीपी नेटवर्क का ये मंच है जहां एक एक कर खास मेहमान आ रहे हैं, और मैंने पहले भी कहा था कि राष्ट्र को समर्पित इंडिया 2047 ये कॉन्क्लेव, और इस सत्र में एक बेहद खास मेहमान इस वक्त हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं। चिंतन रिसर्च फाउंडेशन के अध्यक्ष हैं शिशिर प्रियदर्शी जी। जोरदार तालियां शिशिर जी के लिए। शिशिर जी के सामने हम सबसे मुश्किल सवाल रखने जा रहे हैं। इंडिया 2047 जो लक्ष्य लेकर हम चल रहे हैं, ये एक सपना है विकास हासिल करने का, और वहीं दूसरी तरफ नेट जीरो 2070 जो एक जिम्मेदारी है पर्यावरण के संरक्षण की। अब सवाल बड़ा ये हो जाता है कि ये दोनों एक दूसरे के पूरक हो सकते हैं या फिर ये बिल्कुल 2 कॉन्ट्रडिक्टरी व्यू पॉइंट्स हैं, और हम देश की गाड़ी को 2 अलग अलग दिशाओं में तो नहीं खींच रहे हैं सर।
बहुत धन्यवाद, थैंक यू सो मच। मेरी स्वाभाविक है कि 25 साल जिनेवा में रहने के बाद हिंदी उतनी अच्छी तो नहीं है जितनी मेरी एंकर की है, लेकिन फिर भी प्रयास करूँगा टू अंडरस्टैंड कि ये एक्चुअली विरोधाभास है या नहीं है। हम एक एक मिनट ज़रा दोनों अपने इन लक्ष्यों को सोच लें। हम लोग एज अ कंट्री कमिटेड हैं कि 2047 तक एक विकसित भारत का रूप ले लेंगे। ये शब्द हम लोग बहुत प्रयोग करते हैं, हम सब लोग कहते हैं विकसित बाय 2047। व्हाट डज इट एग्जैक्टली मीन? एक आम आदमी से पूछिए। केवल जीडीपी का $30 ट्रिलियन हो जाना इज नॉट इनफ। वीव गॉट टू हैव adequate housing, adequate medical facilities, manufacturing, growth। मतलब बेसिकली अगर आप एक पॉइंट लें, जब सब लोग हैं, अगर आज हम आपसे कहें कि 30 मिलियन हम लोग 30 ट्रिलियन हो गए हैं, until and unless it has made a difference to you individually, व्यक्तिगत रूप से अगर आपको कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ा है तो नहीं। और सबसे बड़ा जो एक बिंदु उस लक्ष्य को हासिल करने के लिए होगा वो होगा पावर। एनर्जी विल बी द सिंगल मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग। मैंने बहुत अच्छा अभी पिछला सेशन सुना, बहुत ही बढ़िया, बहुत पॉजिटिव, इट वाज अ वेरी पॉजिटिव सेशन। देयर वाज वन वर्ड मिसिंग इन दैट एंटायर सेशन, द एनर्जी नीड दैट द कंट्री वुड रिक्वायर टू रीच द काइंड ऑफ AI लेवल दैट वी नीड। मैं आपको कुछ आंकड़े देता हूं। इस समय हमारा लगभग पूरे देश में जो प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी है करीब 500 गीगावाट्स है। Again, the number may not mean anything. Let me give you comparisons. Entire UK, entire Great Britain की installed capacity is just over 100 gigawatts. हम 500 पे हैं, जबकि हमारा per capita consumption UK के per capita consumption से लगभग 1/10 है। So one of the most important ingredients would be to cross this barrier, एंड उसके लिए हम लोगों को लगभग 2000 गीगावाट का टारगेट बाय 2047 चाहिए। मतलब हमें 4 times वी हैव टू इंक्रीज आवर प्रेजेंट प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी। क्या ये सब ग्रीन और रिन्यूएबल से हो सकता है? अनफॉर्चुनेटली नहीं। 2 कारण से कि इट इज नॉट जस्ट द कंट्रीज रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टू गो ग्रीन, इट इज एज मच अ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी टू एंश्योर that we are going green while ensuring energy at an affordable price। आज हम सब ग्रीन कर दें बट आपका बिजली का बिल दुगना या तिगना हो जाए, that is not greening of the economy। तो एक तरफ तो ये हमें करना है, दूसरी तरफ क्लियरली हमारा लक्ष्य है, जैसा आपने कहा, 2070 तक to be absolutely net zero। Now obviously on the face of it ये contradiction नजर आता है कि हम कैसे करें। मेरा एक सिंपल इसका मतलब सिंपलिस्टिक व्यू कह लीजिए है कि वी कैन नॉट सी देम एज बीइंग डाइवर्जेंट एंड इनकम्पैटिबल। हमें बिल्कुल ये इंश्योर करना है कि नॉट ओनली डू वी ग्रो बट वी ग्रो ग्रीन। और 2 बहुत बड़े एडवांटेजेस हैं हमारे पास एज कंपेयर टू जो और प्रीवियस दशक में या शताब्दी में इस तरह लोग ग्रो किए हैं, कंट्रीज ग्रो की हैं। टुडे we have far better technologies to grow की। जब अमेरिका डेवलप कर रहा था तब क्या रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी थी? नहीं थी। जब यूरोप डेवलप कर रहा था तो क्या उनके पास सोलर पैनल्स थे? नहीं थे। सो इन सम वेज दे आर हैविंग टू रेट्रोफिट व्हाट दे हैव।
तो मतलब हम टारगेट अचीव कर सकते हैं या हमें कुछ समझौते करने पड़ेंगे इस रास्ते में?
देखिए, अगर हम कॉपी करेंगे जो वेस्ट ने किया है, हम टारगेट नहीं अचीव कर पाएंगे। We have to carve our own path. We have to be very individualistic about it.
सर माफी के साथ,
हाँ।
मतलब कॉपी तो हम करेंगे क्या? ये जितनी वेस्ट की कंट्रीज, जितने डेवलप नेशंस हैं, आप इतिहास उठाकर देखिए, ये सब तो पहले डेवलप हो गए और अब ये ज्ञान देते हैं हम लोगों को सस्टेनेबल ग्रोथ का। तो ऐसे में हमारे सामने क्या किसी दुनिया के देश का कोई ऐसा मॉडल है? इस मामले में भी हमें अपना मॉडल, मतलब इस मामले में भी हमें आत्मनिर्भर बनना पड़ेगा, अपनी लकीर खुद खींचनी होगी।
एक तो बात बिल्कुल आप सत्य कह रही हैं कि ये सब देश ऐसे थे जिन्होंने जब इंडस्ट्रियलाइज हो रहे थे, इन्होंने पर्यावरण के बारे में एक बिंदु नहीं सोचा, एंड इनकी ग्रोथ हो गई, इंडस्ट्रियलाइज हो गए, एंड देन सडनली दे बिकेम द बिगेस्ट प्रीचर्स ऑफ एनवायरमेंटल सस्टेनेबिलिटी। अगर आपको, और ये मैं इस प्लेटफॉर्म के माध्यम से ही नहीं, अगर आपको जेन्युइन ग्लोबल डबल स्पीक का एग्जाम्पल चाहिए, नथिंग कुड बी वर्स देन दिस। उसका एक सत्य ये है कि एक तरह से यू कुड इवन कॉल इट किकिंग अवे द लैडर, कि आपने एक पर्टिकुलर लैडर इस्तेमाल करके एक स्तर पे आप पहुंचे, उस स्तर पे पहुंच के यू वांट टू किक दैट लैडर अवे। सडनली ऑल दिस टॉक अबाउट कितना जरूरी है ये, जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है, वी मस्ट प्रिजर्व द प्लैनेट फॉर द नेक्स्ट जनरेशन। You've completely forgotten about the present generation. What about the developmental obligation that every government in a developing country has towards its masses, including India? तो, sorry, थोड़ा seriously बोल गया, मुझे बोलना और आपकी तरह, हमें उनको रास्ता दिखाना है, हम उनका रास्ता नहीं देखेंगे, हमें उनको रास्ता दिखाना है, not the Western world, but developing countries को, कि हम दोनों लक्ष्य साथ साथ कर सकते हैं। इनको कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन के रूप में ना माने, इनको ये माने कि द ग्रोथ विल बी सस्टेनेबल, दैट इज द ग्रोथ व्हिच विल लीड अस टू डेवलप।
तो मतलब यहाँ पर वो स्पेस है जहाँ भारत वाकई में विश्व गुरु बनकर उभर सकता है, जो दुनिया के अन्य डेवलपिंग नेशंस हैं उनको रास्ता दिखा सकता है। सवाल अब मेरा ये है कि ये क्लाइमेट जस्टिस की हम बात करते हैं, आप देखिए जो ग्लोबल एमिशंस के हिसाब से अगर देखा जाए तो जो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज़ हैं वहाँ का हिसाब देख लीजिए और भारत का देख लीजिए, तो उसमें तो कोई कंपैरिजन है ही नहीं। ऐसे में क्या हम पर दबाव ज़्यादा है?
देखिए, दबाव उतना होता है जितना आप लें। आप किसी भी क्रिकेटर, आजकल आईपीएल चल ही रहा था, पूछें तो वो कहते हैं हम तो जाते हैं, हम अपने जोन में चले जाते हैं, हम ध्यान नहीं देते हैं। हम लोग इस ग्लोबल इशू को दो तरीके से अप्रोच कर सकते हैं। एक तो हर कॉप से बड़ा तो कोई ग्लोबल इवेंट होता नहीं, उसमें जाएं और हम निरंतर ये कहते रहे, आपने पल्यूट किया था तो आप अब पैसे दीजिए जिससे कि हम भी ग्रीन की तरफ जा सकें। कहते रहिए, निरंतर कहते रहिए, आपको यू विल गेट लिप सर्विस, यू विल आस्क फॉर $3 trillion, यू विल गेट 600 बिलियन, यू विल नॉट गेट दैट मनी। और वो मिलता भी कैसे? ये तो जो हम लोग डेवलपमेंट कोऑपरेशन में इतने साल WTO में काम किया है, अगर कोई कंट्री कह भी रही है वो आपको 5 करोड़ दे रही है, उसमें 4.5 करोड़ तो जो चला जाएगा उनके विशेषज्ञों को आपके देश में फ्लाई करके लाना। व्हाट हैव यू रीच्ड आउट ऑफ इट? नथिंग। सो वाइल हमें क्लाइमेट जस्टिस के रूप में ये तो कहते रहना है कि पल्यूटर पेज फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल रहे, आपने पल्यूट किया, यू आर रिस्पॉन्सिबल, बट इंटरनली वी मस्ट कंटिन्यू टू डू एज इफ इट डजंट मैटर टू देम। ये एक सत्य है विश्व का कि हम लोग कह रहे हैं कि हम डेवलप्ड कंट्री होना चाहते हैं 2047 तक। ऑन द पब्लिक फोरम एवरीवन विल क्लैप, प्राइवेटली डू यू थिंक दे आर कीन वी बिकम? आपको इतने रोड़े पड़ेंगे। The Trump tariffs are only one such example. You will get 100 such examples where what is being said will not be implemented। और आपको वही बिल्कुल इसमें रमाना सत्य है कि आपको खुद ये वास्तव में अपना बात करना है, उसके लिए आपको खुद पैसे इकट्ठे करने हैं, खुद पैसे इसमें लगाने हैं, एंड इट्स अ लार्ज सम ऑफ मनी। नॉट दैट कि आप क्लाइमेट जस्टिस के लिए फाइट ना करते रहें, बट क्लाइमेट जस्टिस का एक और पॉइंट, एक तो क्लाइमेट जस्टिस है व्हेन वी लुक एट आवरसेल्व्स एंड अदर कंट्रीज, बट लेट्स आल्सो इंश्योर क्लाइमेट जस्टिस विद इन आवर कंट्री। हम एनर्जी ट्रांजिशन की बात करते हैं कि कोल को बंद कर दिया जाए, कितने लाखों परिवार हैं जो कोल या थर्मल एनर्जी पे निर्भर हैं। ट्रू क्लाइमेट जस्टिस विल स्टार्ट एट होम।
तो सर, ये जो एनर्जी का बैलेंस है वो कैसे बनेगा? कितनी निर्भरता कोल पर, कितनी रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी पर, कितनी न्यूक्लियर पर, इसको किस तरीके से आप डिफाइन करेंगे?
अब मैं कुछ देर के लिए अपना व्यक्तिगत विचार व्यक्त करता हूँ। जब मैं बहुत पहले करीब 20 वर्ष भारतीय प्रशासनिक सेवा में रहा, तो हम लोग से कहा जाता था कि जब कुछ ऐसी बात बोलनी है तो कह दो प्राइवेटली बोल रहे हैं, बट यू वेरी सून रियलाइज कि दैट इज द वन विच इज ऑफन कोटेड द मोस्ट। आपने 4 बहुत अहम हमारे एनर्जी पोर्टफोलियो के पिलर्स का नाम लिया, and trust me, they are all 4 so important that let me repeat them. Obviously सब लोग बात रिन्यूएबल की कर रहे हैं सबसे ज़्यादा, और इस समय हमारा टोटल 500 गीगावाट में लगभग 250 गीगावाट रिन्यूएबल हो गया है। आफ्टर चाइना वी आर probably the biggest renewable now producing country। तो रिन्यूएबल तो पक्का रहेगा, जिसमें दोनों सोलर और विंड आया। You will certainly have gas, एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण कंपोनेंट ये रहेगा। फिर जिसके हमारे पास अबंडेंट रिसोर्सेज हैं और जो क्षेत्र सबसे ज़्यादा प्रेशर अट्रैक्ट करता है कोल। We have one of the world's largest resources और सब कहते हैं कोल बिल्कुल मत प्रयोग करो। कोई बीच का रास्ता निकालना पड़ेगा कि हम कोल का इस्तेमाल भी करेंगे बट इन अ मोर क्लीनर वे। फॉर एग्जाम्पल कोल, एंड आई लव टू शेयर दिस विद ऑल ऑफ यू, कोल गैसिफिकेशन एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण स्टेप है जिससे वी कैन प्रोड्यूस फर्टिलाइजर्स, वी कैन प्रोड्यूस अ लॉट ऑफ other important elements with much cleaner way.
पर्यावरण को संरक्षित रखते हुए।
बिल्कुल, पर्यावरण को संरक्षित रखते हुए आपसे सीख रहा हूँ हम लोगों को करना है। और बहुत महत्वपूर्ण कदम भारत सरकार ने उठाया है। स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स को शायद उन्होंने 47 या 38,000 करोड़ दिए हैं टू सपोर्ट प्राइवेट सेक्टर इनटू कोल गैसिफिकेशन। चौथा, न्यूक्लियर। हम लोग कई बार न्यूक्लियर की बात नहीं करते हैं और टारगेट्स भी थोड़े कम हैं। न्यूक्लियर मिशन में 100 गीगावाट्स करना है, बट अगर आप न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी का स्मॉल मॉड्यूलर रिएक्टर लें, अगर आप न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी का प्राइवेटाइजेशन जो कि शांति बिल से हो रहा है लें, तो वास्तव में इट विल बी वेरी दिस विल बी द 4 पिलर्स। इनफैक्ट द राइट वे टू से इट कि अगर, और मैं मुझे 2 पिलर्स और ऐड करने दीजिए जो कि कभी वार्ता ही नहीं होती है। वार्ता किसकी होती है? रिन्यूएबल गैस, कोल और न्यूक्लियर। जो 2 चीज़ों की कभी वार्ता नहीं होती है, ट्रांसमिशन एंड स्टोरेज। यू कैन कंटिन्यू टू प्रोड्यूस एंड जनरेट, आप उसके ट्रांसमिशन साइमल्टेनियसली करेंगे और आजकल की एनर्जी के परिप्रेक्ष्य में आपको स्टोरेज पे तो करना ही है काम। सो दीज 6 विल एक्चुअली फॉर्म the 6-engine aircraft that will take India to Viksit 2047।
और फिर नेट जीरो 2070 तक भी
100%। देखिए, नेट जीरो का ये मतलब नहीं होगा कि हमारा कोल या फॉसिल फ्यूल बिल्कुल बंद हो जाए। नेट जीरो का ये मतलब होगा कि हम जितना अगर कोल से कार्बन एमिट कर रहे हैं तो उतना ही बैलेंस आउट बाय पॉजिटिव कार्बन कर रहे हैं। मतलब नेट जीरो होना है, ये नहीं है कि जीरो एमिशन होना है।
तो मतलब इससे जो हमारी ग्रोथ एस्पिरेशन है उस पर कोई रोक, कोई लिमिट, कोई ब्रेक नहीं लगेगा?
देखिए, लगेगा तो हल्का सा अंकुश लगेगा, लेकिन हमें उस अंकुश को एम्ब्रेस करना है। हमें वास्तव में सोचना है कि वी हैव टू इंश्योर सस्टेनेबिलिटी ऑफ ग्रोथ बाय इंश्योरिंग कि ग्रोथ ग्रीन है। कुछ इनिशियल स्टेजेस में पैसे ज़्यादा लगेंगे, इनिशियल स्टेजेस में समय ज़्यादा लगेगा, बट फाइनली अगर आप इसको एक मैराथन देखें न कि स्प्रिंट, देन इन द लॉन्ग रन दिस विल बी फार बेटर फॉर द कंट्री।
तो मतलब ग्रीन ग्रोथ वर्सेस फास्ट ग्रोथ वाली बहस में जाना ही नहीं है, और जो नेट जीरो है उसको एक मौके की तरह देखना है, एक बोझ की तरह नहीं, भार की तरह नहीं।
बहुत सुंदर आप कह रहे हैं। मतलब हम लोगों को एक्सचेंज कर लेना चाहिए तो यू स्टेट मी इन दिस साइड, यू मतलब इतनी अच्छी तरह आप कहती हैं। बिल्कुल। देखिए, इसी जो सबसे पहला प्रश्न आपने पूछा था कि क्या विरोधाभास है, विश्व में विरोधाभास ही माना जाता है। हम भी करीब 20 साल पहले से जब WTO में काम करना शुरू किया तो देयर वाज दिस परपेचुअल डिबेट बिटवीन डेवलपमेंट एंड सस्टेनेबिलिटी। मैं एक्चुअली कहता हूं कि आज की तारीख में इनको यू हैव टू कंसिडर दीज एज 2 हैंड्स दैट यू हैव टू होल्ड साइमल्टेनियसली, नॉट सेपरेटली।
तो सर, फिर अगर हम इस तरीके से विकास के साथ आगे बढ़ेंगे और 2047 का अपना लक्ष्य हासिल करेंगे तो वो विकसित भारत जो है उसमें कामयाबी के मायने, जहां से आपने अपनी बात शुरू की थी, वो क्या होगी जन जन के लिए?
मैं तो कहूँगा जन जन से ही पूछना चाहिए, बट देखिए, वास्तव में तो एनीथिंग जिसको कि हम विकसित भारत कहेंगे मस्ट मेक अ डिफरेंस टू अस। मैं ये मानूंगा कि 3 उसके मुद्दे बहुत आवश्यक हैं और भी होंगे। मैं 3 पे रुक जाऊंगा। एक तो जैसा कि कह ही चुका हूं, एनर्जी पावर एंड टू द एक्सटेंट रिन्यूएबल कंपोनेंट ऑफ दैट एनर्जी पावर। इसको मुझे 1 सेकंड में एक्सपैंड करने दीजिए। अभी इत्तेफाक से करीब महीने भर पहले मैं गुजरात में खावड़ा गया। खावड़ा has got one of the largest solar power plants, 30 gigawatts। अगेन, केवल ये नंबर आपको उतना अगर ना मायने दे, 540 किलोमीटर पे सोलर पैनल्स लगेंगे, 540 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर्स। अगेन, ये अगर दिस नंबर मे नॉट मीन एनीथिंग, पेरिस का टोटल क्षेत्रफल करीब 110 स्क्वायर किलोमीटर है। तो वी आर लुकिंग एट अ सोलर पावर प्लांट 5 times द साइज ऑफ पेरिस। ये भारत है, जिस गर्व से पिछले सेशन में हम थे। अगर भारत में पेरिस से 5 गुना साइज का बन सकता है, जहां आप एक पता नहीं 200 फीट के आप टावर पे चले जाएंगे, एज फार एज यू आई कैन सी इट विल ओनली शो दैट। सो सबसे पहले विल बी एनर्जी पावर। द सेकंड वेरी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज वील हैव टू बी अ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पावर। सर्विसेज पे हमारी ग्रोथ नहीं हो सकती है, सर्विसेज पे हमारी जॉब क्रिएशन नहीं हो सकता है। और अगर उस विकास और प्रगति को हमें जन जन घर घर क्षेत्र प्रदेश में लाना है, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग विल बी एब्सोल्युटली एसेंशियल। कॉम्पिटिटिवनेस, टेक्नोलॉजी, फाइनेंस, ये सब इस मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पावर के हब्स होंगे।
तो एक एनर्जी, दूसरा मैन्युफैक्चरिंग,
तीसरा जो ह्यूमन पावर है, जो हमें चाहे वो एआई के रूप में हो, चाहे वो स्किलिंग के रूप में हो, चाहे टेक्नोलॉजी हो, चाहे मेडिकल हो, मतलब मैं तो कहूँगा इसको आप 3 पावर मान लीजिए, एनर्जी पावर, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग पावर एंड ह्यूमन पावर। दीज 3 विल बी एब्सोल्युटली एसेंशियल कंपोनेंट्स हमारे लिए, हमारी विकसित भारत को जाने के लिए।
ये तो आपने बिल्कुल फ्रेमवर्क खाका सामने रख दिया, लेकिन क्या इसमें कोई रोड़ा, कोई बाधा भी आ सकती है जिस पर गौर करना जरूरी है?
बहुत सारी। देखिए, लेट मी स्टार्ट अगेन, गो बैक टू द मैक्रो लेवल। क्योंकि सबसे ज़्यादा चर्चा वही होती है। चर्चा ये होती है कि हमें अगले 17-18 साल 8% की ग्रोथ, एनुअल जीडीपी ग्रोथ चाहिए। कहना आसान है, शब्द भी आसान है। आपका 15 दिन के लिए स्ट्रेट ऑफ हॉर्मुज बंद हो जाए, योर ग्रोथ कैन फॉल बाय 0.5 बेसिस पॉइंट, 50 बेसिस पॉइंट एकदम। तो रोड़े तो देखिए बहुत हो सकते हैं। आजकल का जियोपॉलिटिकल माहौल कंप्लीटली, देयर इज वेपनाइजेशन ऑफ डिपेंडेंस। जब वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 खत्म हुई थी और WTO जैसे एंटिटीज बने थे, तो उसका एक उद्देश्य था कि जितना हम एक दूसरे पे निर्भर होंगे उतना शांतिपूर्ण वातावरण बना रहेगा। बड़ी अनफॉर्चुनेट बात है कि डिपेंडेंसी को आज वेपनाइज किया जा रहा है। एंड इफ डिपेंडेंसी इज गोइंग टू बी वेपनाइज्ड, then be sure there'll be lots of obstacles in our path to 2047. But like any good government, the present government, I'm absolutely certain has got lots of planning, and that is why we might even plan for a 9% growth, knowing कि कुछ periods होंगे कि 7% आ जाएं. But, and let me also end this bit with that, हम लोगों को उतना ही एम्फसाइज स्टेट गवर्नमेंट्स की ग्रोथ पे करना है। हमारा देश थोड़ी है, इतने सारे राष्ट्रों का एक संगठन है।
बिल्कुल।
उनमें वी हैव टू इंश्योर 9% ग्रोथ। बड़े रोड़े आएंगे जैसे आप कह रही हैं, बट आई एम फेयरली सक्सेसफुल। The kind of positivity we have in the population and the kind of planning we have in the government, we should be able to overcome.
तो आपने जो अभी ऑब्स्टिकल बताया वो वैश्विक कारण आपने गिनाए, है ना? तो सर कुछ ऐसे वेरिएबल्स जो हमारे हाथ में है, जिनको हम कंट्रोल कर सकते हैं, उसके बारे में अगर आप बताना चाहें।
देखिए, कंट्रोल मतलब नेशनल वेरिएबल्स तो ऑफ हैंड मुझे नहीं लगता है कोई है। स्वाभाविक है, कुछ अजम्पशंस होते हैं हमारे जो कि हम इस बात पे अज्यूम कर रहे हैं। हम अज्यूम कर रहे हैं कि हमारे एनर्जी प्रोडक्शन बढ़ता रहेगा। हम अज्यूम कर रहे हैं कि हमारी जनगणना की जो ग्रोथ है वो थोड़ी सी कम हो जाएगी। हम अज्यूम कर रहे हैं कि जो नई टेक्नोलॉजी है उसमें हम सबसे आगे रहेंगे। हम अज्यूम कर रहे हैं कि जितना भी हम खुद जनरेट कर रहे हैं कैन ऑल गो इनटू ग्रोथ। सडनली डिफेंस की तरफ बहुत ज़्यादा नहीं चला जाएगा। सो देयर आर अ नंबर ऑफ थिंग्स जो कि इंटरनल है।
अजम्पशंस में थोड़ा कंजर्वेटिव रहने की ज़रूरत है।
सर्टेनली, मैनेजिंग एक्सपेक्टेशंस।
और आपने पॉपुलेशन का क्योंकि जिक्र किया यहाँ पर, तो पॉपुलेशन जो है वो एक तरीके से डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड आपको लगता है कि मिलने वाला है इंडिया को?
सर्टेनली मिल भी रहा है, मिलेगा भी। केवल पॉपुलेशन ही ना कहिए, लेट अस कॉल इट द वेरी यंग एवरेज एज ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन। वी आर जेन्युइनली बेस्ट, बट ब्लेसिंग्स केवल यूथफुलनेस ऑफ द डेमोग्राफिक डिवाइड से नहीं आती है। आई ऑलवेज वांट टू ऐड दैट वन अदर एलिमेंट टू इट, द एम्बिशन ऑफ द यूथफुल पॉपुलेशन। उससे डेमोग्राफिक एडवांटेज मिलता है। एंड ट्रस्ट मी, द लेवल ऑफ एस्पिरेशन एंड लेवल ऑफ एम्बिशन टुडे इज फार मोर व्हेन आई वाज एट दैट एज।
सर, सबसे महत्वपूर्ण आप किसको मानते हैं? मतलब ये दोनों टारगेट्स अचीव करने के लिए हमारी पॉलिसी मेकिंग का सबसे बड़ा रोल होना चाहिए, कैपिटल बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, पब्लिक एक्सेप्टेंस बहुत ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है या फिर कुछ और?
देखो, दो चीज़ मैं कहूँगा, एक मत कहिए। यू नीड द एब्सोल्यूट राइट पब्लिक पॉलिसीज़, और उसमें थिंक टैंक्स, हम अकेले नहीं हैं, बहुत सारे लोग हैं। चिंतन जो है, केवल एक काम हम क्या करते हैं, बहुत अच्छे काम हो रहे हैं। जो भी परसेप्शन, कंसर्न्स, कंस्ट्रेंट्स ग्राउंड लेवल पे हैं, हमारा काम है उन्हें सरकार तक पहुंचाना। पब्लिक पॉलिसी का पूरा हक सरकार का है। अगर हम ये माने कि जो हम उन्हें अपने सुझाव दे रहे हैं वो सब मान लेंगे तो हम गलत कर रहे हैं। तो एक चीज तो है पब्लिक पॉलिसी ग्राउंडेड इन ग्रास रूट रियलिटी, नॉट पब्लिक पॉलिसी जो कि फॉर्मुलेटेड ओनली इन
AC rooms.
बिल्कुल, एयर कंडीशन रूम। The second thing which would be most important is generation of domestic resources. हम किसी और पे निर्भर हो सकते हैं, वर्ल्ड बैंक पे, IMF पे, WTO की विभिन्न स्कीम्स पे, बट फाइनली we've got to be generating our own resources. and इधर भी अगर आप पिछले 10 साल का ग्राफ देखें, it's a very, very positive trajectory. I think each one of us individually must also acknowledge the fact that our contribution through direct and indirect revenue that the government collects is very important.
तो शिशिर सर, इतना चैलेंजिंग जो सामने टारगेट है, विकसित भारत 2047 और नेट जीरो 2070, शिशिर जी जो हमारे पॉलिसी मेकर्स हैं, उन्हें एक सुझाव क्या देंगे?
वास्तव में एक ही सुझाव दूंगा जो खुद फॉलो कर रहा हूं, कि फर्स्टली ये दोनों चीजें इनकम्पैटिबल नहीं हैं, और ये देश के लक्ष्य नहीं है, ये प्रदेश के लक्ष्य नहीं है, ये हम सब के व्यक्तिगत लक्ष्य है।
क्या बात है, मतलब ये सिर्फ दो लक्ष्य नहीं है, ये दो अलग अलग रास्ते नहीं है, बल्कि चुनौती ये है कि इन दोनों में संतुलन बिठाया जाए, और संतुलन बिठाकर पहले 2047 विकसित भारत वाला पड़ाव हासिल कर, उसके बाद नेट जीरो 2070 की तरफ भारत कदम बढ़ा दे, और दुनिया के सामने अपना मॉडल रख के वाकई में जो विश्व गुरु वाली भारत की पहचान है उसको और मजबूत करे। थैंक यू सो मच सर, बहुत शुक्रिया ABP न्यूज़ के मंच पर आने के लिए।
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।